Welcome to Prime 9, the countdown show that covers the very best in baseball. Guaranteed to start arguments, not end. This episode features the game's 9 most unique uniforms. Why 9? That's baseball. 9 players, 9 innings, Prime 9. Throughout baseball history, there have been some mighty strange uniforms. You had your checkerboard Dodgers of 1916 and your sleeveless Reds from the late 50s, just to name a few, but neither of them made our list. No, our uniforms had to be so unique they made you groan, or sometimes chuckle. They quite often were more colorful than your average uniform.
You gotta love it.
And to make certain that you could appreciate them in all their majesty, they are all from the television era of baseball. What's more, our selection universe goes beyond uniforms worn just one day or for a single series.
Look at that look going.
You won't see any turn-ahead-the-clock jerseys.
They were so ugly.
Nor any Boston green, and certainly no camouflage.
Their honor to the military.
But you will see 9 of the game's most unique uniforms, starting with number 9 on Prime 9.
I like the Giants' new orange jerseys. They kind of calmed it down. It's not as bright as the old orange jerseys back in the early 80s.
The orange tops, I remember that. We wore that my rookie year.
Joey Davis gets a hit.
The fact that a team so rich in history and tradition would go from their classy look to a more unconventional one late in the 70s caught some folks off guard.
It was a little surprising. I think they were trying to reach out maybe to a younger, hipper audience. In order to gain their attention, we wore those bright orange unis and changed the logo and changed the look.
Then again, baseball in America were in the midst of a fashion challenge decade, so the change was somewhat understandable.
At the time, it was the style, I guess.
That was a time in society where people were grasping to figure out what fashion really was, and the game of baseball was no different.
The Giants did make one slight alteration to their orange unis for a year, but you had to look way down low to see it.
I got to the Giants in 1982, so I wore the orange top. I, however, did not have to wear the orange socks because they wore that in 81.
Boy, that was a bad look. I mean, the bright orange tops, we wore orange sanitary socks.
The fact that they showcased the orange on the road was a bit too much for some players.
I mean, I don't have a problem with having an orange top, but I do think that if you're going to have an orange top, you should probably wear it once a week.
Which is precisely what San Francisco does today.
I'm gonna wear them every Friday night for Orange Friday.
They're perfect in this uniform this year, 9-0 wearing orange.
Well, the Giants 3 decades ago were far from perfect, which might be why they started wearing orange.
We had to do something. I mean, after all, we were losing 100 ball games a year. So it's like, if you don't play well, you might as well try to dress well.
It's better to look good than feel good.
It was 1993 when the expansion Florida Marlins introduced their first uniforms.
Spring training. You gotta love it.
And their color was teal.
The Marlins unveiled their new uniforms, and folks, they are spiffy. Check out the pinstripe home uniform.
Yeah, they were bad. I didn't quite know what color. Teal, I guess. No grown men should be putting that color on anywhere at any time.
The road grays are pretty slick, too. But the talk of this fashion show, the home vested version.
I thought they were ugly uniforms. I didn't like the color. I didn't like teal. It wasn't a baseball color.
Your 1993 Florida Marlins.
So when the first major league team in Florida took to the field for the very first time, they did so in style.
The team teal hats of the Florida Marlins all around.
Charlie Huff, 45 years of age, will be on the mound throwing that knuckler.
For me, it was getting to go home. I grew up 10 miles from that ballpark, and to pitch the first game, something I'll never forget it.
Struck him out. What a way to start a ball game.
Maybe you had to live in Florida to appreciate the look, because Huff thought the teal was simply keeping it real.
They were going with the look of South Florida and that teal color. I thought it kind of went in with the neighborhoods, and I really liked it.
Again from Florida, up in Tampa.
It was kind of cool. You know, it almost looked like a softball uniform, but, you know, it was different for me, and I was playing in my home state, so I would have worn a Ronald McDonald outfit.
Again dives, throws, Destrada catches, Hershiser's gone.
The Marlins eventually replaced much of the teal with black. And while there's no proof it made a difference, it wasn't long before Florida was on top of the world.
To see them pull it off like they did, it was a great job. It was really special to see.
Welcome back to Prime 9, featuring the 9 most unique uniforms the game has ever seen. You've seen numbers 9 and 8, which means it's time for number 7.
When Disney came on board and bought the team, first thing was the uniform change, and it was a period of time where there was a lot going on with that transition.
Just as busy was the Anaheim Angels' new uniform, and that did not sit well with some.
You saw the wings, you saw the pinstripes. I don't like a lot going on. I'm more traditional in the colors than you know, what we were trying to work there.
It was so ugly. That logo, I mean, I know it was a baseball, you know, supposed to emulate a baseball being thrown or something like that, but for some reason, I think the fans had some different ideas about what that looked like.
Grand slam home run by Tim Salmon, and the Angels win it in 11.
But it didn't stop there. For once a week, the Angels blitzed their fans with an even more bizarre combination.
We had an alternate jersey that we wore like on Saturdays that had just straight periwinkle sleeves on it, and that one was a little much.
They look like a Disney character. Periwinkle blue and pinstripes and wings on the A. They were interesting, certainly.
At the time, I didn't care. I was in big leagues. I'd wear anything. Tell me to wear, but when one of your team colors was periwinkle, it was a little, kind of touched your manhood a little bit.
The bench is clear.
I think it was just to kind of bring in a different crowd, maybe a younger crowd. So it was more of marketing. Disney was more into marketing.
Fortunately, after 5 years of periwinkle and pinstripes, these Angels came back to earth.
The traditional old school Angel uniform that broke out in 2002, you know, where they brought back the red, are just top notch, and it's a real sharp looking uniform.
There's nothing like a clean white home uniform.
Those were sweet.
They say that clothes make the man, or in this case, the baseball team. For the new old-look Angels became champions.
The 42-year wait comes to an end as the Anaheim Angels win it all.
There was uniform joy in Southern Cal, and new evidence that if you look good, you play good.
Now, we saw the red tops. And, you know, red top, that's, yeah, cool. And then there's red pants. All red?
Disco ruled the airwaves in 1975. Gas cost 36 cents a gallon. And in Cleveland, red was in, unfortunately.
It was the ugliest uniform in baseball ever.
Look at that play.
Oh, my goodness. What a play.
It was like the invasion of the ketchup people.
And they have a fight.
Bright red Cleveland Indian double knits were the ugliest uniforms of all time. I think they were in class by themselves.
Oh, ugliest uniforms you ever want to see. They all look like apples out there.
We had some big guys on that 75 team.
Frank Robinson is up.
I mean, these are all really big guys. And to put these big guys in an all-red uniform was really, really unfair.
They look like chili peppers, you know, big red chili peppers, all of them.
Tired of being the butt of jokes, the players finally decided that enough was enough.
We had a meeting and we said we will not wear the all-red uniform again. We will wear the red top, white pants, but never the whole red uniform. That was not a good sight.
The all-red motif didn't stick around for very long, and for some of the Indians, a different look seemed to bring with it new life.
Jay Kuiper just hit his first major league home run.
It didn't matter what color the uniform was. I was just really thrilled to be there.
Oh, is he one happy ball player?
Let me just say this about the 1975 all red. We had a first baseman by the name of Boog Powell, and Boog called me over and he said, kid, I want you to be really honest with me. I said, sure, Boog. He said, do I look like a big Bloody Mary? And I said, Boog, you do.
Welcome back to Prime 9, featuring the game's most unique uniforms. We've gone from San Francisco to Florida in search of unique unis, and from Southern California to Cleveland, which means it's time for number 5. Change was in the air in San Diego in the 1970s, and unfortunately for the hometown Padres, that applied to their uniforms as well. But they were not alone.
A lot of other ball clubs in the mid-70s really got confused about fashion. The San Diego Padres were as garish as anybody.
It's a brown uniform with mustard color yellow across the shoulders and down the half sleeves. The hat is mustard color yellow, and of course you can imagine the jibes of the other ball clubs hollering out about put a little more mustard on that hot dog.
My roommate Nate Cover said, well, one thing, we might not win a lot of games, but we're going to have the coolest fans in baseball. And I said, why? He said, they're all going to have to wear shades, otherwise they can't watch us.
But despite the taunts and teasing that the Padres experienced, there were some on the team who were more than happy to don the brown and gold.
Well, I loved them because it was the first team I ever played, and I was 21 years old. I didn't care you had yellow sanitaries and brown stirrups. It was a big league uniform. Now you look back and you go, wow, we wore those things.
The uniforms throughout the history of the San Diego Padres have created some questions.
Yeah.
But what gets me about these are the yellow sanitary socks with a stirrup.
I didn't really care for it that much. I thought it was kind of an ugly uniform. But Ray Kroc did what he wanted to, and they never really, I thought, got it right.
Oh, my.
There must have been something about the West Coast in the 70s where baseball fashion seemed a bit more unique. But in the case of the Oakland A's, well, they were just following the lead of their owner.
Charlie Finley came up with the idea of these wild, colorful uniforms.
He was the ones that marketed the ball player in a uniform. Sort of brought baseball into the new era with style and fashion.
Gold, green, two-tone. We wear white pants with gold tops and green tops. And on Sunday, we wore all white uniforms. You know, we never knew what we were going to wear.
Unpredictability was a trademark of Finley's A's, but the players learned to take it in stride.
We thought we looked a little goofy at first. Fans seem to love it, and packed ballparks. People want to come out and see the crazy guys from Oakland.
The crowd is going crazy.
With a roster filled with characters like Campy, Rudy, Sal, Raleigh, and Reggie, the not-so-uniform uniforms seemed just right. And they felt right, too.
Great save! Great, fantastic play!
Once we put the uniform on, it didn't make a difference what color. They went out and played, and they played hard.
What a ball game!
You might say Finley had his A's dressed for success, because from 1971 through 76, the A's won an American League high 563 games and 3 straight World Series titles.
The A's have done it. It is a madhouse here at the Oakland Coliseum.
Uniforms aside, winning is always fashionable.
When we started winning, I think we were identified as a great ball club, and I think the uniforms had a lot to do with it.
Break it up.
That man got on a gold uniform. That's a bucko.
Shake it!
No question, gold was the color du jour in the 70s. But while the 79 Pirates glittered like no other, they took variety to a whole nother level.
We had more uniforms than we had players. And they weren't very good looking, by the way.
I think they're classy looking.
There were a lot of people that had some fun at our expense, but they sort of became our signature, if you would.
A rather large signature with a kaleidoscope of color combinations.
The Pirates are wearing the gold jerseys, black pants with gold striping.
It was tough because sometimes you go on the road and you take the wrong color socks and the wrong color hat.
If it hadn't been for the equipment manager keeping track every day of what combination had been worn, it could have been crazy.
Hooley was your clubhouse manager. He had to be part of a nightmare on the road to take, 16 different sets of uniforms?
Yeah, we had the stripes black, the stripes white, and all that. I mean, we didn't know what we were going to wear.
There's no telling any rhyme or reason whatsoever as to what uniform we were going to wear on a given night.
Rather than stage a mutiny, these Pirates embraced and added on to their look, like when their leader, Willie Stargell, implemented a star system on the caps.
4 more for the 4 games you're going to win.
Anyone who really did anything good, during the game, he gave them a star. It was just it wasn't for getting hits. It was just for, being a team player.
I actually had a lot of stars on my head, but Ticovey stole them all, and he looked like he had a lot, but most of them were mine.
Stargell's stars were a perfect fit for the team's "We Are Family" philosophy. And Pop's Pirates rode their stars and unis all the way to a World Series title.
Pittsburgh wins it.
When it first came out, guys, we look at each other, start laughing, what, this, who gonna wear this stuff, Well, once we started wearing it and we started winning, we made the city proud of you.
This is a city of champions, and they're very proud of it.
We now return to Prime 9, where in this episode, we're featuring the game's most unique uniforms. 4 of our first 7 unis blossomed in California, but that's where it ends, for we now turn to the heartland. Think you could name the 2 most unique uniforms that we've ever seen? We begin with number 2.
The Astros had the ugliest uniforms in the history of baseball. Is that in the top 10 list? It is. Yeah, those were the ugliest uniforms I've ever seen.
After finishing the 1974 season with a .500 record, the Astros management decided that a new burst of color might be what was needed to put their team over the top. Turns out it was the uniforms that were way over the top.
That was the era where our ownership was all over the place with the Astros, and I think ownership was really trying to shock everybody, and they did.
They thought that taking a baseball uniform, which is classic, it's perfection when it's classic, decided to try to improve on perfection. You had oranges, you had blues, yellows, reds, and if you stared at it long enough, you could go blind.
It was kind of tough to wear as a player, especially in the early days. We weren't very good in those days, and made it an easy target for fans to throw stuff at you now.
I think it was a love-hate. You either thought it was fabulous.
I love those uniforms. Those were sweet.
Or you said, when are they going to get rid of it?
A lot of people hated the rainbow uniforms. I loved them. I thought those stood out. They were just so off the wall, just as far as a color pattern. I loved them.
Like the rainbow itself, reaction was mixed. But come the 1980s, the team was able to turn the fans' attention away from their uniforms and toward the standings.
The Astros have won the National League West.
And some historic moments as well. Although the Astros never found their pot of gold, they did have vision. For with the popularity of throwback jerseys today, the rainbow uniforms are back in style.
You see the people at the ballparks, not only here in Houston, but when you go on the road, you're going to see some rainbow uniforms.
Hey, you got a clean throwback Nolan Ryan jersey over there, though.
It's still very popular with the fans remembering it.
Look at that. That's a good-looking jersey right there.
I think of all time for me, and glad I didn't have to wear it, was the White Sox in their short pants and collars. That was, in my opinion, the worst.
Legendary owner Bill Veeck devised all kinds of gimmicks to pique the fans' interest in his fledgling team, including variations on uniforms. But on one special day in 1976, his players were caught short by a plan that didn't exactly leave them panting for more.
That's the thing about Bill Veeck and any great entrepreneurial mind. You come up with a lot of great ideas, and then you come up with ideas that should have died in the talking process, including these uniforms.
The shorts that the White Sox wore, that was wrong. They were, I don't know, it wasn't right.
It was Bill Veeck in his prime. They looked like softball uniforms or a fraternity team. But at the same time, it was just Veeck having a little fun. People talked about it.
Oh, they talked about it all right, but for all the wrong reasons. After all,
these are professional athletes. They have a lot of pride, and they must have thought it was a joke, and to go out there and have to perform in these uniforms, I mean, the other dugouts, those guys had to be doubled over with laughter.
It looked comfortable, but I don't think I would like to wear it. It just didn't look major leaguish to me.
Our most unique uniform, and the 6th straight that flourished in the 70s, did have one good point.
They were the most comfortable uniform I've ever been in, but they didn't look that great. You had to slide perfectly. If you didn't slide perfectly, you got strawberry.
There he goes, first pitch, not in time.
You won't be seeing the 76 sock shorts in ballparks anytime soon. But the reintroduction of retro looks is a reminder to fans and players alike that, like fine wine, some uniforms get better with time.
I love it, especially with the young players that we have. Sometimes they need to be reminded that the game just didn't start when they showed up. There was actually like maybe 120 years before that they were here, you know?
It's always fun to see the big leaguers pay homage to those that came before them.
It's great to have a little bit of a reminder of where we came from as a sport. And you can say, hey, you know, I'm not the first guy to do this. This is a long tradition of a sacred game that I'm a part of.
Seeing these uniforms, I mean, they do bring back some memories right here.
The uniforms worn by the 76 Sox were just one of many innovations Hall of Fame owner Bill Veeck brought to the game. No one struck a balance between the absurd and a love for baseball better than Sport Shirt Bill. It was Veeck who hired Max Patkin, the clown prince of baseball, as a coach in Cleveland. In 1951, he signed the vertically challenged Eddie Goodell, whose somewhat short career consisted of a walk during Game 2 of an August doubleheader. It was Veeck who first put players' names on the back of their uniforms. He invented exploding scoreboards, and he was the man behind the now legendary Disco Demolition Night in Chicago.
1, 2, 3, 4!
A well-intentioned effort that got just a bit out of control.
Demolishing a record has turned into a fiasco.
Bill Veeck didn't always hit a home run with his promotions, but no owner before or since can match his efforts to bring attention and excitement to the game. That's our Prime 9. What's yours?